good morning or good afternoon or good night. Welcome once again to the X Button, our gaming entertainment podcast for what used to be Statics Media, and now it's called XCape Media.
XCape.
Yes, XCape. I'm one of your hosts, Alejandro Segovia, and with me I have my always lovely co-host, Paul Edwards. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing lovely, Alejandro. It's been a while, and I am glad to be back.
It's been quite a while. so So for everyone that's just first listening to us, you will notice that we're not putting an episode number in this. So yes, this is technically not a new show. It's just basically the relaunch of a new show, or you can call it a new season for all of you TV lovers. So just for a little bit more context, so last year in 2020, me and Paul started this podcast because we love games and we just love talking and discussing games. And I just everything was going smoothly, let's just say, when we started back in January and February and a little bit into March. And then we all know what happened halfway through March. And it's something that still is part of our lives till this day, right, Paul?
We are feeling the effects of it to this day and
Yeah.
forevermore.
Yeah. So then after that point, we kind of took some time off to try to figure things out because obviously with this whole pandemic nonsense that we're still living with, that can sometimes be very taxing mentally and just in productivity alone. And we just wanted to really figure out what we wanted to do. And also, if you're a returning viewer, you're noticing now that we're in video, which we were not. We were a podcast on YouTube that was just a still image with our voices. So, see, there's video and you can see Paul already readjusting his camera, like if it's some sort of dolly. so, So yes, we were trying to figure out, trying to get equipment to try to make it a video podcast. Now we can actually be a YouTube podcast that's actually video, and we'll see how this goes from here on out. So, Paul, you and I have been chatting with our group chat even when we were in our hiatus.
Yep.
But tell me, what's new with you?
Some would say we've been chatting even more than when we were podcasting.
Yeah.
So much has been new with me. Outside of our work with XCape and StatX before it, I have been basically commissioned to be an illustrator, 2D illustrator on at least one game, hopefully making it a series.
Nice.
I have been working on just digital artwork in general. I've been reading a lot more, and I have been playing so much, as always. And I know we're going to get into that at some point, but at least professionally, that's what I've been doing the most, as well as getting money in more boring ways as well. But
yeah, because we're still human. We're gamers, but we're still human beings. Still kind of on the grind. That's kind of why we named this Escape, because sometimes in life we need an escape. Just at least for a few minutes or for a few hours, just to kind of like take a few moments to just have fun and ignore what distresses around us. So we were thinking, yeah, Static was like about challenging the status quo, and we realized that we were not even really challenging it. So I was like, yeah, that's kind of, yeah, the slogan is kind of cool, but we were not really putting our money where our mouth is. So calling this more of escape is like, we just want to chill and hang out and talk games and have a place to rant or praise or both in between.
Hey, we might. And I am going to do both today, absolutely.
Yes.
Because we haven't talked enough about the things going on in this world, and we need to start it.
Yes. And since you said what you were doing, as for me, like, yeah, me just working with my family business and also in my personal time, I finally restarted what used to be my blog, The Critical Corner, which then I kind of segued into becoming the website for what was Statics. But then when that we just kind of like put it on ice, I realized, yeah, that's still my thing. And I reopened it recently. I haven't quite reviewed anything game related because there hasn't really been anything, but I use that blog to talk about things of interest like TV shows or movies. So if you're interested to see my written work, you can go to thecriticalcorner.com. So, Paul, with the preamble out of the way, tell me, this being a gaming podcast, what have you been playing, my friend?
Alejandro, I've been playing so much, but mainly just recently. So I actually have been I've created a problem for myself, and I have been buying games on sale left and right on the
Yeah,
PlayStation Network. Mainly, the ones that I can think of off the top of my head were I got Ghost Recon Breakpoint a while back. I got
same
Mafia
here.
2 Definitive Edition. I have played a grand total of about 10 minutes of that game before I decided to play something else
Yep.
briefly. I did play it back on the 360,
Hmm.
and it was phenomenal, but I had more going on. I restarted Dishonored, the
Hmm.
first game that I got for free when I purchased Dishonored 2, and it holds up fantastically. And Ratchet and Clank, of all
Yeah.
things, just
So real quick
yeah,
for that one. Do you already have Ratchet and Clank, or do you get it free with the PlayStation Stay at Home
I got it
initiative?
free.
Yes.
And I think I technically got it because it was one of the free games for the PS5. Because you remember they were giving away a certain amount of like the greatest hits on PlayStation exclusives.
Yes,
Um,
but that one wasn't there.
it wasn't okay.
Yeah, it
Well,
wasn't.
then
Yeah.
I got it with the stay at home then. And I will tell you because you can. Well, Zach hit us with the receipts on that one. That I said I was not going to expect to be able to enjoy that game very
Hmm.
much, and I am very pleasantly surprised that I hardly have put it down since I've gotten into the meat of it because that game is very different from what I thought it was going to be.
Hmm.
I thought it was going to be very much similar to that Spyro PlayStation 1 style of collectathon, run around and hit things. But yeah, I was very surprised to find out that it was a really solid third person shooter.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it just, the game on PS5 looks and runs phenomenally. It's 60 frames per second,
Yeah.
and it's colorful as hell.
And just for some fun context from before,
Yeah.
you didn't have a 4K TV, even though you had a
No,
PS4 Pro.
I had a very rinky dink sharp Aquos. I think it was like a 42-inch monitor with the yellow, white, and red wire connectors still, and that thing, I love it. It still holds together. It's in my office, but I was missing out.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
can
think we're
admit that.
literally looking at that TV right now, right?
That is it. Yes, 65-inch. No, 50. It's
55. I
55 or
think it was
65.
55
I
when you
think it
told
was
me.
50.
Yeah.
So yeah, 55-inch Samsung. Very confusing model numbers, but it does all the things I need it to. Smart TV, 4K, 60 frames per second, 120 hertz. It's beautiful.
And now you notice frame rate also, right? Because
I
remember,
do.
you used to be like, yeah, I
I
don't
did
really
not.
notice. And I'm like, how can't you? You can differentiate 60 versus 30.
Man, I didn't really know what I was looking for because sometimes it would look fantastic and really smooth when I was playing something, but it never lasted very long. And I would always think, like, all right, what's the deal? And then I found out later on that you can play on 60 frames per second, but when you're playing it and when you're watching a playback of it, it is night and day.
Hmm.
That's what I realized, and that's why now people are wanting 120 frames per second because they get that playback speed pretty much all the time, and I get that now.
That's literally my brother.
Especially,
My brother has become fan of 120 frames.
yeah,
Like,
I'm gonna wait till that all gets a little less expensive before I start looking for 120 frames per
mhm,
second on
yes.
anything. But yeah, for right now, I'm perfectly satisfied with this sucker that I got for Christmas and my monitor, which I'm currently using for everything else.
Nice. Is that all you've been playing?
That's I started actually replaying Red Dead Redemption Online.
Hmm.
Um, and that has been a very vibing experience, frankly. Just going out there and riding through the forest to do random stuff. Figured out how to actually make money in the game too, so that's pretty nice. It's basically just a fashion game for me to figure out how I can make my cowboy look as cool as possible all the time.
Yeah, I've been wanting to try to reintroduce myself to that game because I haven't played it since launch. But
They've added a lot. They still haven't done to the like GTA level of, oh my gosh, like all these crazy races and
mhm,
heists and all that stuff. It's been like you've got your two levels of bounty hunter, you've got your trading role, your collector role, but now you have the naturalist, which is either hunting big animals or it's like sedating them and getting samples, and then moonshiner, which is what I do the most. And basically, you just have like a prohibition era speakeasy,
mhm,
and you are taking out revenue agents, trying to cultivate your brand, and they have whole like 5 or 6 solo missions that
mhm,
have like its own storyline within the moonshiner role, like full voiced cutscenes and everything, like the initial stuff. But you don't have to join like a group of 2 to 4 people for those.
mhm.
You could just play them whenever you want, pretty much. So, yeah, it's been great. The only problem with that is that they require you to use gold to buy into any of this, and that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
And that's the
Um,
microtransactions, right?
yes, that is like you can earn it from playing the game, but you have to put in like, I mean, I don't quote my numbers on this, but I would say it took me about 10 hours to actually get enough gold to buy 15 gold worth of content, which was the next level of bounty hunter, which is also strange. I had the first level of bounty hunter, which was 20 levels, and then to buy another 10 levels that they just released separately with more different types of missions and other legendary bounties was another 15 gold on top of it. I don't agree with it. I feel like with the stuff that they've been doing, it should remain for cosmetics and
That
not for actual progression.
that does not sound fun. How you say it? That
That
does
part
not sound
isn't
fun.
fun, but
Yeah.
the fact that the game play loop itself from the gunplay and the actual missions themselves are extremely fun. I will give it to that. And one of the biggest complaints I used to have for the travel distance between places, I'm understanding that if I choose the right missions and go to the right stuff, it isn't as long as I thought it was. And then besides that, I've had to adopt the Elite Dangerous model of you put your horse running and then you go to your other monitor and you watch a show
Mhm.
until you get there, which at least for this is only like maybe a couple of minutes of riding time versus Elite Dangerous is sometimes 15 to 2 hours I once did.
Yeah, I remember some of the rides in Red Dead, at least in the campaign, were long enough, and whenever you're holding like the X button, ha,
Yes.
and
Ding.
being yeah, where you're holding like if you're playing on PlayStation, you hold the X button,
Yes.
and I don't remember what other thing you have to tap for it to go into like cinematic mode, and then you
The
just kind
touch
of let it,
screen.
yeah, and then at that point I would be like in my phone.
Mm-hmm. And I'm really glad that they at least have that. They don't have it for carriages, but people found out that if you tap the X button to get up to speed and then you aim your gun, it actually, the horse will run along, excuse me, whatever path you're moving towards. So you have options. It is frustrating that they didn't put that in, but as with everything, the consumer is what actually finds the best quality of life
Mhm.
for whatever you do in a game. So, Alejandro, what you been playing?
So I've actually been playing on the PS3 recently because why not?
Skeptical face.
Yep.
Why?
So knowing that the new Ratchet and Clank, it's funny that you're mentioning that you've been playing Ratchet and Clank also,
Hmm.
and you've been playing the enhanced version on PS5 uh, because there's no backwards compatibility on modern Sony consoles before beyond just
So dumb.
PS4.
I hate
Um,
it.
Sometimes when I always have this thing when a new entry is coming of something, if there's like all games, I like replaying them, or in this case, playing them for the first time, just to kind of like psych myself up, put myself like
Okay,
in the mindset.
I can see
So
that. Yeah.
So my thing with Ratchet and Clank was like that's a series that was one of the rare series that both me and my brother love. But my thing is that I always have like this thing that if I see someone playing a game and I see that they're farther away than I am and I see where they're at, it
Hmm.
makes or no, they're very far away and I'm aware of that. I tend to not want to play because I'm already looking what's far away because I'm like, I
Okay.
don't know how much farther I am. I'm behind him. How much farther this is? This is gonna be like a church. I don't know if you remember when we were playing Last of Us last year that I was telling you, please
Yep.
don't say anything. Like
Yeah.
don't say where you're at, like be as vague as possible
Hmm.
because I don't want to feel that if I get behind. Because I have a very annoying way that I play games that I like exploring every corner. I'm very OCD that way.
Hmm.
So I know, like my brother, he likes blasting through. Like he doesn't care about exploring. He's just about finishing anything. When he plays single player games, he just plays multiplayer these days. But back in the day when I saw him play Ratchet and Clank, I'd always see him play far away, so I never beat them myself. I would just experience them through them, even though I liked the games. It actually wasn't until the PS4 one that I got to play it and beat it by myself back in 2016. So I was like, you know what? I'm finally gonna play them. And I played the PS3 ones, Ratchet and Clank Future Tools of Destruction, Ratchet and Clank Future Quest for Booty, and yes, that's what it's called. And then
I remembering how ridiculous all of those titles were because I remember because in the heyday of Xbox 360 and the PS3 I had to file those away a lot and I remember exactly all of the up your arsenal full
yeah,
frontal
yeah,
assault
full frontal assault,
um, and just
a crack
realizing
in
I was like
time,
how did they get away with this title.
and they're E-rated, T-rated games. That's what's funny.
Exactly. And it blew my mind because I knew what the games were for the most part, and they weren't like Conker's Bad Fur Day, where it
Oh
was
yeah,
very on brand to have as raunchy of a statement as possible. But it blew my mind how somebody was like, "Yeah, we're gonna title it this. It's exactly what we're gonna do, and we're gonna roll with it."
yeah, and I appreciate that they kept it, even though the new one Rift Apart is not that
Yeah,
much of an innuendo like the other ones, like
and
up
the
your arsenal.
other one for PS4 was just called Ratchet and Clank, I think.
Yeah,
So that was a reboot.
because it's a remake reimagining of the original one.
Yeah.
But like there's so much in in that one that if you played the first one from 2002, you can identify some of the levels, but they've been rejiggered and the story is a little different with the
Hmm.
things that they've added that it still feels fresh, while
Okay.
also adding a lot of what made the PS3 game so good because that PS3 trilogy is so good, especially the last one, Crack in Time, that came out in 2009.
Hmm.
That game was excellent. So good. And the new one picks up from this one. And I'm like, that's so cool.
So it
They get
makes
into
me
this.
wonder, as a newcomer, where does Rift Apart fit into this new canon of? So you said the 2016 Ratchet and
Hmm.
Clank was a remake, reimagining of the original. Does Rift Apart hold any closeness to the original canon, or is it mostly all new?
Think about it like Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Okay,
You
so it
can,
is. It has the same theming, but it is going to lead into a completely new direction.
yeah.
Okay.
Especially with like the 2016 one, it's kind of like that because like in the beginning, but the Rift Apart one is gonna pick up from Crack in Time and a smaller game that came out called Into the Nexus, which was the last one they released on PS3.
Okay.
Ironically, the week the PS4 came out, so that game got buried because who cared about
Oh,
buying things on PS3 when you had the PS4? But
true that.
they have made it very clear that this is a jumping on point. If you've played before, you'll get some references and all that, but you don't
Hmm.
need to. You'll still be able to enjoy it, which I
Yeah.
think that's smart because they didn't re-release any of these games on like
Yeah.
PS4 or even PS5 for you to be able to like experience the whole story. So I think they made a right choice, and we're gonna talk about that game a little later.
Oh, we
But
will.
but yeah, it's like I really enjoy playing that, and then still being on an Insomniac Games binge. I am also replaying the Resistance trilogy, which was the first person shooter that Insomniac made. It's kind of like the alternative to just being doing Ratchet and Clank, and those
Hmm.
shooters are still so good because I like story based things, and those games are all about the story and like
How
cool
do you
lore.
believe that I never actually played any of them?
Yeah,
That
I
was
understand
right
because
way
that,
before I ended
yeah,
up getting into it all.
exactly, yeah, especially because Resistance came out at the PS3 launch, the first one. That was like if you were buying a PS3 at launch when it
That
was
was
six
the
hundred
game, yeah.
dollars, that would be the game, even because there was nothing really there to play, and that was like the standout.
Mm,
Then the second game came out in like 2008, but then at that point, like the whole PS3 library was building and growing, and the second game decided, hey, I want to be more like Halo and Call of Duty. And then everyone was like, we don't want you to be Halo and Call of Duty. Be your own thing. That then by the time they made the third game, that went back to what made it great, which was like, it's kind of like Ratchet and Clank when you have like this huge arsenal of weapons that you can upgrade and
hmm
always carry with you and all that. That's what the third one was. The second game was just having two weapons at a time, and you swap them by holding the square button to
Hmm.
like to pick. You know, kind of like Call of Duty and Halo. Oh, let's
Basically,
pick
yeah.
this. So for a lot of people that was a mistake, and then by the time that they took 3 years to make the last one they made, no one cared, and then that series just was put on ice.
Mm.
Ironically, if you follow Insomniac's Twitter account, they've been tweeting a lot of Resistance stuff, like
Really?
a lot. And funny enough, I didn't put this in the news, but the creative director of Resistance 3, his name is Drew Murray. He also did Sunset Overdrive over at the Xbox because that's a game that Insomniac made. He was at an Xbox studio called The Initiative, the ones that announced the new Perfect Dark. But then
Okay.
yeah, back in the Game Awards last year, that
Hmm.
was like the big announcement for me, that show. Uh, he went back to Insomniac. He makes shooters. Insomniac's now owned by Sony, and I'm like, why are they teasing? Why are they
Man,
teasing this? Are they bringing it back? I sure hope so, because I would love for Sony to have another shooter again in their.
it would be fantastic just considering. Well, I mean, we've gone back and forth in our chat about the concept of Sony creating the same type of games
Mm-hmm.
recently.
Yeah.
Whether or not you agree with it, I think if they did something crazy like this, one, they would definitely have to reboot the whole series because
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a completely new generation coming towards this. They're going to have to change a lot of the tone, a lot of quality of life. So you couldn't just
Mm-hmm.
remaster the series. I don't think
Yeah.
that was in the
I would
heyday of
say
the edginess.
yeah, I would say you can still remaster it because those games, even playing them right now, they hold up relatively well for a shooter.
I
So,
was thinking more on the aesthetic side of it
oh yeah,
because that's very much in the Gears of War, grungy
gray, yeah,
gray and
hmm,
brown, and that doesn't fly anymore. At
yeah,
least with me
yeah.
personally.
Ironically, Resistance and Gears of War were they kind of came out in the same time. Also, ironically, in the same exact years. So those would
Yeah.
be like they would always be pitted against each other. So that's
Hmm.
funny that you actually mentioned that. But yeah, that's what I've been playing. I'm not good because holding out into buying a PS5 right now, which we'll talk about a little later.
Why are you holding out to buying a PS5, Alejandro?
Well, we're sure gonna talk about that. Um, I have a bunch of because kind of like you, I've gotten a bunch of games on sale because those PSN sales are nuts,
They
like
are. They
insane. That they're so
recently they've been crushing it.
yeah, it's just so funny like seeing so many games that are like become impulse buys, and then I'm like, do I really want to invest my time now, knowing that there's a better console that can give me a better version of this just by playing it there? So I'm
Yeah.
kind of like hoarding them.
Oh man.
Yeah, but yeah, we're definitely gonna talk about that. So yeah, that's what I've been all I've been playing so far, and I'm gonna talk about a fun segment that I want to introduce near the end of the show. We're gonna talk about that later.
All right.
So it's time to get into the meat of the show, which is reacting to what's been happening in gaming media. Because with
Let's
barely
dive
anything
in.
new coming out, we can only react. So back then we used to do it like this. Paul, press X for.
Some news.
Dun, 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 dun. I swear, now that we're on video podcast,
Yep.
I'm gonna make sure that we get a song for that I can play it whenever we're
Oh,
transitioning for
that'll be
this.
fun.
So
Even if it gets copyrighted, at least we can dance to it in silence.
I bet we can find a copyright-free music.
I am sure we could as well, even if we threw something random in every once in a while to throw the other off.
All
All
right.
right. So what are we looking at, Alejandro?
Yeah, so last week was fairly meaty, all things considered. So I think we picked the right time to come back and do the show. Because whenever we're starting the summer, I'm always like, I think I remember telling you this when the last time we made the show, that I'm always scared about summertime because it always
Ugh.
feels like there's not going to be any news happening. It feels
Yeah.
like there's always news happening every single time now.
Although
So
now everything is coming out in June and July, so
yeah,
we're not going to have that problem this year.
exactly. Yeah. But yeah, for now, let's talk about the news. So this past week, PlayStation held its second state of play for 2021. If you remember the first one that they held, they announced the Final Fantasy VII Remake PS5 version. That was like back in
Oh
February.
shoot, that
Yeah, so
was
this
yeah.
was the second state of play. Unlike that one, this presentation was actually headlined by a meaty 15-minute gameplay showcase for the upcoming Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which we're commenting on in our what were we playing, which comes out on June 11, 2021, bearing any last-minute delays. Right, Cyberpunk?
Ugh.
So
Don't,
this game
don't
marks,
speak that name in my
yeah.
presence.
Oh yeah, we kind of had to talk about that more in public.
Oh, I'm gonna
Yeah,
need some ibuprofen for that one.
yeah. So this game marks Insomniac Games' second first-party exclusive for the PlayStation 5 following the release of the excellent Spider-Man Miles Morales at the system's launch back in November. So, Paul, do you watch the state of play for Rift Apart?
You know what? Just before this, I actually went back and watched at least the
Mm-hmm.
Ratchet and Clank portion of it, and I knew of the Subnautica. And
Mm-hmm.
there was like one other thing they talked about
Among Us.
very briefly.
Among Us,
Okay,
yeah.
and it's coming to PS4 and
And
five.
PS5, yes.
Got it. Um, I say, wait, is this time for me to actually give my opinion here?
Yeah, if you want.
Okay, I just
That's
want
why.
to make sure if you had
Yeah.
anything else before I started
But since
talking.
you mentioned it real quick, yeah, that presentation also included the announcement of Subnautica Below Zero coming on May 14, 2021. So in a few weeks, actually next week, if I really count it correctly, May 14
Yeah.
today,
Okay.
yeah.
Well. Oh,
And a PS4, PS5 version of Among Us is also coming later in 2021 with Ratchet and Clank content. I find it funny that they announced it and not released it immediately because Among Us has been on Switch already. So why wait? But I
all
guess
I
they
can
need,
think is maybe building a little bit more hype towards Ratchet and Clank. Maybe.
maybe,
Eh.
yeah. But
Um.
yeah, back to the big one,
Yeah.
the Rift Apart presentation. What do you think?
I thought it's really solid. I think. I mean, it looks fantastic. Sort of skimmed through it, the 15-minute gameplay. I love
Mm-hmm.
the dash mechanic because replaying, or not replaying, this is me for the first time
Mm-hmm.
playing the 2016 Ratchet and Clank. It definitely needed a dash button. One of the things that I loved, here we go with the comparisons in the Jack and Daxter games,
Mm-hmm.
was the concept that you could hit a button and Jack would go flying
Mm-hmm.
forward, backward, whatever direction you needed to absolutely get some mobility out of him. Because I mean, you have the R1 button, which is Clank doing his little propeller move. It does
Mm-hmm.
kind of jump you forward, but I find that I have thrown myself into the wrong direction a little too much for my liking on that. The up jump whenever he's stationary and you hit R1, he jumps up.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the same distance as if you double jumped, so I didn't even see the point of that one. Like, it's a little
Not
bit
really.
more, but I've tried to jump over some things, and I have more control with the double jump than with the um, vertical R1. But maybe that was just me and I wasn't doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
But
Probably.
the concept of like all of the weaponry, of course, is awesome. I saw there's like a bit of like powers being used with the rifts and stuff. I still need to go back because when Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart was announced, I wasn't on the bandwagon at
Mm-hmm.
all. So I need to go back and see what they showed that was so cool about it. Because I
Yeah.
mean, we talked briefly about the idea of the other world being just like a few button presses away, and you could kind of
Mm-hmm.
jump through. And there's like the small obligation, obligatory,
Obligatory.
Obligatory. Hey, there it is. Loading screen that like kind of lets you go through it real quick, and then
Hmm.
you're all of a sudden in a different environment. I want to see that again, just because I've been playing the PS5 more, um, which I actually have some things to say about the loading screens for that. They have hyped up the concept of the loading screens, and I found out that developers have been instituting false loading screens to give people downtime and let them continue to like be able to put down their controller for a second,
Hmm.
because I found out that was actually a big problem for developers to solve, because if people don't have downtime they burn out of a game faster. So
Hmm.
the fact that they can instantly load in at a different place in the map is actually detrimental to the overall playability of a game.
Hmm.
That was an interesting suggestion that I did not expect to think about whenever it came out. And so the fact of being able to jump through this stuff was very interesting to me with Ratchet and Clank coming back
Hmm.
on our focus here. Um, as for, I don't know if they showed any vehicles that you can fly around or anything.
Yes, you can. There's vehicles that you can fly around, and there's also you can fly dragons. There's a section where you can actually fly dragons in the thing.
Wow. So I wonder, interesting. Because so far for like the 2016 one, then I'll turn it back to you. There's moments when you can, but it's not a seamless. All right, you want to go fly somewhere, jump in your ship and go. It's
Hmm.
more you jump in your ship and then you load into the next
Hmm. The next
planet,
level, yeah.
and then sometimes they're letting you fly the ship in like a specific little area. Do you know if that's going to be a little more seamless, or is it still the same concept
It
of
seems seamless
okay,
from the gameplay that I saw, but obviously we'll have to play the game this June to really see how all
right?
that flies out. That game looks excellent. That game was like everyone was making the joke that Insomniac was just flexing when they were showing that game, because I would love to see that game on your TV. What you said,
Oh,
because that game looks insane. Like
it's
it, like
gorgeous.
I can't believe they have such talented artists. Like for real, like the art, just the art direction, even it being an animated kind of like Pixar like quality game. I think that can even be more of a compliment, because I think we've always gotten close to the it's a Pixar movie that you play. Then there's always a little bit of uncanny valley that I'm like, yeah, but we're
Yeah,
not quite there yet, but we're getting
yeah.
close. That's how it was in the PS3 ones. That's how it definitely was with the PS4 one, but this one absolutely looks like that.
It really
And
does, and I think a mix of like the lighting has been literally day
yeah,
and night
yes.
from what has been before, because now it's not as much about the jump in realism. We've achieved the realism, but
Hmm.
now it's the merging of
Composition.
our
Yeah.
composition into the environment around them that is really going to make it that next level. And we are finally getting to that, and I finally understand that concept to actually
Hmm.
appreciate it. And I mean, just you look at Kena Bridge of Spirits. That's also supposed to
Yeah.
be in summer, I believe.
August. It's coming in
August,
August. Yeah,
yes.
that was announced in the last state of play.
Yeah. So same thing with this. It's no longer about how realistic can we get like the folds of somebody's skin. Is it can you get this world that looks completely seamless? I'm gonna say hot take. I think Kingdom Hearts 3 pretty much nailed it as well.
Hmm.
With a couple of caveats. I'm not going to try to defend or talk about
When the
the
game doesn't look like a PS3 game, that game
yeah.
looks beautiful.
Um, and when they're not trying to make an entire 2 minute let it go segment with cutaways to Sora, Donald, and Goofy going, "What the heck is going on?" It basically
That
looks
happened.
identical to what the movies can now do, which is amazing that you can just play something that would have been handcrafted before is now, I wouldn't
That's
say
a reality.
procedural, but it is playable.
Mhm.
And it's a reality, yeah, like you said. So I'm extremely excited for this new wave of. Ratchet and Clank is the vanguard of a new type of game, I think.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, we're going to talk about it a little later. That, gosh, we just finally get the power for this kind of stuff, and then we get that kind of taken out from under us, and we'll talk
Yeah,
about that later.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're
So, yeah,
it's not
turning it
that,
back
but
to
yeah,
you.
Yeah, and also just a quick comment also on Rift
Yeah,
Apart. I see a lot of Spider-Man and Sunset Overdrive influences in that game with wall running and some of the mobility. You can tell that the things that they learned in those games, they were
yeah,
applying this back to this, because Ratchet and Clank is very, especially if you're playing the PS4 one. It feels very static in the floor. It feels like you're
it does.
stuck in the floor, which is not
Hmm.
bad, but I think we've gotten to a point where we expect a little bit more mobility out of our games. So I'm glad that they're adding that to this one. So,
Yeah, I agree, and I think that would be very interesting to delve into one day. The concept of the need for us now to have more mobility and freedom, just like I asked you
mhm,
yesterday in the chat, like games that give you freedom and why they are just on a completely different level
mhm,
from other games. And I would say freedom and gameplay freedom, and specifically to play the game the way you want, to jump around the way you want, to fly around the way you want is infinitely better, but also is very difficult to achieve, and for whatever reason is only recently being addressed.
yeah.
Um, but back to you, yes.
Yeah, so yeah, that's all I wanted to comment on. It's still coming in June. Very excited for that. Wish I
Hmm.
could play it whenever it comes out. We'll talk about that later.
Yep.
Um, so, second news story. This was announced a few weeks back, and it has to be brought back into the remembrance of people. E3 is coming back as a digital event this year from June 12th to June 15th. This marks the return of the show under a new online only format due to the continued reality that is the COVID-19 pandemic. So, obviously, yes, there's vaccinations happening. Thank God. Have you gotten your vaccine yet?
I haven't yet. My wife has. She is a counselor, so she got it a little
First
earlier than
respond, yeah.
everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah, so even I'm thankful that at least in the US, like vaccinations are going, it seems relatively smooth. I still haven't gotten mine, but I should be getting mine pretty soon.
I've been
Uh,
told that we actually have an I wouldn't say an overabundance, but we have more than what people need now, which is why the restrictions are lowering.
mhm. Which
Because
makes sense. You're
anybody
getting
can show
vaccinated.
up at
Yeah.
their local Walgreens and get a COVID vaccine, which is fantastic. And I didn't think that we were actually going to get to that point so
Yeah.
quickly, at
It's,
least in
it
our
seemed like we were
country.
going to be staying in this hellscape forever, right?
Oh God.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
so because even though vaccinations are still happening, the E3 is erring in the side of caution, so they're not
Mhm.
opening their show floor again. At least this year, they're expecting to do that in 2022. So online only. They had a couple big names already had confirmed that we're going to be part of E3. One of them already opted out after saying they were going to be there.
Which
Konami.
one? Yep.
Konami is the first company that has dropped out of the event after originally saying they would participate. My thing is that kind of sucks, but I'm like, what do they even have?
I was gonna say, like, what
Yeah,
are they even about to reveal that is that big of a deal to even show up at E3?
yeah. Unless they're gonna rebuild Metal Gear Solid 6
God,
and non Kojima MGS 6, which that sure brings me a lot
Metal
of
Gear
confidence that
Solid
they're not.
5 DLC with
Yeah,
all of the stuff left out. That's like the only reason,
no,
or
that's
like
the
a
thing. Like
remake.
that would be the closest the gaming world would have to a Snyder cut because that game never got finished.
Release the Kojima
The
cut of
Kojima
Metal Gear Solid
cut.
5.
Yeah, because
Oh
he
gosh.
never finished the ending of that game, which is like you can look a video of what the final chapter would have been. It's so
Yeah.
which is funny.
Oh my gosh.
So
Oh.
so yeah, but yeah, other big names like Xbox, Nintendo, Sega, Ubisoft, and Square Enix, plus a butt ton of other names. I went into the ESA website to look who's gonna participate. It's quite a few names. Um, so that should at least make the event at least something to tune into. Also, no news about whether or not Sony or and PlayStation are going to be part of the event, and we don't even know what they have planned for this year around that time. We just have to remember last year around that time, Sony held their own digital presentation when they officially unveiled the PlayStation 5 after agonizing months of silence, if you remember.
Hmm. I
So,
remember that, and we were so worried that Sony was like missing their chance at revealing stuff,
mhm.
especially with Xbox throwing out so much and commercials and all that stuff. And yeah, sure
Yeah,
enough,
and
like
that's the
Sony
thing
threw
because
it
that's
at
the thing.
us.
Even from back then, like what Xbox has been doing has just been like dominating the conversation. in any way, shape, or form. They're always on a headline about something, and that was even happening back during before the official reveals. So I would expect them to at least, even though they say they're not part of E3, I can expect them to drop a big presentation that same week just to kind of get attrition, like not attrition, kind of like a momentum out of everyone, like already expecting big announcements. So you kind of just
Yeah.
siphon that on. But
I mean, I said it last year, and it's like, why would they limit themselves by following E3's strict rules of when you can and can't reveal stuff? And why don't they just do their own digital thing, just like Sony did? And sure enough, they had full control over the time, the amount
Mhm.
of freedom they had, and what they could show and do. And sure enough, they dominated the heck out of people talking about it,
Mhm. Yeah,
because they didn't have
the
to
two,
rely on E3.
yeah, the two big presentations they did, the one in June and the one in September,
Hmm.
that set the price of the console. Those were like the everyone talked about those. My thing is, I remember last year. If you remember, around this time last year, it was announced we were gonna have something called the Summer Game Showcase by Jeff Keighley, and I was like, that's very
You were
exciting.
so excited about
Yeah, I
that.
was because kind of following your same train of thought, like,
Yeah.
okay, people will have their own time. They don't have to like conform to a one schedule. They'll be able to say everything and dominate the headlines. That was horrible. I'll just say that Summer Game Showcase last year spread out over 4 months with like no cadence of when we were
Yeah.
gonna get an announcement.
That was the problem. If they had said specific days spread out
Yeah,
over 4 months,
hmm
fantastic. But it was just a random set of reveals
yeah, random.
anywhere in that
Yeah,
space.
randomly in a week. Oh, we have the Ubisoft doing a presentation where they're gonna show games that we already knew about. So there was
Yep.
like no, there was no pop for there. And
Uh,
Xbox did their presentation, the one that they face planted with Halo Infinite, if you remember, and
oh,
the famous Craig the Brute meme that, that forever haunted that game. Oh man, do you remember Craig? That
I
like
remember
melee,
Harambe was reborn in a
yeah,
horrible bastardization.
yeah, which then led them to delay that game out like completely out of what was going to be the big launch game of the
Which
Xbox Series X.
ended up, I think it might have been smart.
Yeah, oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely, like big smart. But going back to the three thing, because there was like no cadence, it was exhausting, and I hate thinking that you have to watch these things to get hyped because whenever you get hyped, you only end up disappointed. But you also
Yeah.
want to be excited at least about what's coming up, also. And I didn't think that worked. So I feel like all these developers trying to converge again into a solid 4 days will be better to because kind of like the phrase "a rising tide raises all boats."
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like by itself, the Ubisoft announcements from last year wouldn't have worked. But if they had been part of like a full day where we're seeing everything kind of stack up,
That's
they
true.
would have had a little bit bigger pop. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of excited in a way to have E3 back because one will have something to react to in a
And
month
did they say
ish.
when that's going to be exactly?
Yeah,
June
June
12th?
12th to June 15th.
I think that's
So
right between all of the crazy things I have to do, so that's perfect.
yeah, perfect timing. So and usually there's only one day where the big showcases are. So
Yeah.
the other days are people showing demos where they're doing interviews. I usually don't watch those. I
Yeah.
only like watching like conferences or presentations. So
Hmm.
those usually are on 1 or 2 days. So yeah, E3 coming
Looking
back.
forward to
We'll
that.
see how it goes this year and see how much they show because let's not forget this pandemic has disrupted development to such a degree.
Uh,
Everything's getting delayed.
if
So
anything, at least we would see the fact that things exist.
mhm.
Maybe some kind of CG trailer or brief gameplay teasers. I'm sure if like the names are big enough. I mean, was it God of War? We're still
Mhm.
not sure if that's going to show up to this year or not.
Yeah.
Sony has
Oh
been
yeah. Remember? Yeah.
swearing up
Remember?
and down,
Oh yeah,
but
remember that thing was teased for 2021, and we're almost halfway through the year, and we haven't even seen a gameplay trailer. So that
nope,
thing's not coming out this year at all.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But at least they're pushing Horizon Forbidden West a lot, so
Hmm.
I think that one might at least be close enough. But that man, what think about the possibility of Horizon being forced to be released this year and it
God of War
not
next
have
to.
the same level of polish as
Mhm.
Zero Dawn did.
Yeah, and my thing is that they have been working on that one for a while since like they released the DLC in 2017, so it has had a few years already under its belt. Plus, it's still gonna be a PS4 game,
So does
sadly.
that? Oh yeah, I was gonna say, does that mean that it's not actually made from the ground up for PS5?
Yeah, exactly.
So
So
that means it's not even gonna take advantage of a lot. I mean,
it
that's
will.
yeah, that's a huge caveat by
Yeah.
saying that because PlayStation 5 makes everything that runs on it better, but
Hmm.
it's gonna make the public not
Hmm.
be
Yeah.
as hyped
Oh,
about
oh,
the
yeah,
game.
absolutely. Because, like for example, look at Ratchet and Clank, the whole thing going through the rifts and all that. That's a
Yeah.
flex of the SSD.
Hmm.
So if they have to do a Horizon game that started development on PS4 based on when they would have started development, and and also knowing that there's a PS5 SKU, it's definitely going to be a game built from the ground up on PS4 that may have some bells and whistles taking advantage of the new hardware and the new one.
Hmm.
That can be exciting, but then there's also, you also missed out on the idea of, man, I wish this could have been a game built from the ground up, because how would they have designed things if they were just developing for that SSD? So I'm still excited for that game, but it's also a little, it leaves you a little crestfallen not knowing that it's not going to take advantage of the next hardware that's there. And obviously they
Yeah.
did that because not everyone can get a PS5, which this just segue to the next story where
That I was just gonna say, like, it's almost within their benefit
uh,
to focus on games made for the PS4 and playable on the PS4 because no one can find the damn thing.
yeah, because Sony has sold 7.8 million PlayStation 5s in less than 5 months. So Sony announced that in their quarterly financials, which actually this surpasses the 7.6 million PS4 sold in the same
Hmm.
time frame back in 2013 to 2014. So this is more impressive considering we're still in the middle of a pandemic. It's the more readily available SKU, which is the disc version. That's 499. That and it's $100 more expensive. It's heavily supply constrained, and online retailers are borderline inept with their websites at providing a smooth purchasing experience. I can attest to that because I've been trying to get a PS5 for the last month and a
Oh
half,
man.
and none of the websites have found a way to like uh, withstand the amount of traffic of everyone trying to get a console, bots trying to like scalp the like snag them to then sell it at ridiculous
Jeez.
scalping prices. Like just last week, last Wednesday,
Hmm.
I followed this YouTuber named Jake Randall, super nice dude. He's done like a bunch of videos on tricks to try to get the console when they drop in different retailers. I almost snagged a Target one. I was this close. I woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning because Target restocks like at 5, 6 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
I managed to get it in the cart and the thing would not check out.
Mm.
The thing, and I missed out on the part where they said that even though it was giving errors, to just like slam the checkout button to get it to go through. And I missed out on that. And
Shoot.
I was depressed for the rest of the day. so so yeah, yeah, this website, and what sucks is that Sony still to this day they're not shipping consoles to be sold at retail. You can't walk into a Best Buy, let's say, see the thing on the shelf and be like, "I'm taking that." No,
Right.
it's all online, so that makes it worse.
It doesn't
So
even make it to the store fast enough. It's just like, what's the point of sending it out if that's going to limit the ability for people to find them?
yeah,
Because, like, say you send it to the GameStop, send it to my GameStop. That means the one that's in New Orleans is not able to be found usually in the Oklahoma region or down by
hmm
you in El Salvador.
yeah. We
Um,
don't have GameStops down here though. The prices here are even
even
worse.
that,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's
um,
guess what the price is for a PS5 right now that's currently sitting in a shelf at Walmart, because we do have a Walmart here.
I can't wait to hear it. What?
$1,399.
How much of that is the inflation, and how much of that is demand, though?
So that's inflating. That's inflation greed at this
Yeah.
point, because other like more official Sony retailers, when they briefly had the thing here,
Hmm.
the disc version was $880, and the
Okay.
digital version was 630 something, if I remember.
Goodness
Reasonable,
gracious.
because it got shipped here,
Right, and
and
that's gonna already bring it up because it's outside of their
Yeah,
normal factories and distribution.
yeah, but 1,400.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, and kind of how they see it is that people are may want to snag it as a payment. You know how kind of you buy things through credit and you pay it like over a period of 24
Yeah,
months,
which has
but
been
then you
more
end up,
common lately, I've
yeah.
noticed.
Uh, they don't do that much for PlayStation there in the US, but that's kind of what they're trying to push here. That they don't expect people to pay upfront $1,700 because I'll
Hmm.
tell you, no console is worth more than $1,000. No console. So it is a nightmare. But it's in such high demand that even through all this, Sony has sold this much, and they have
And this
they
is
also
amazing.
confirm. Yeah, they also confirmed that they have sold a total of 114 plus million PS4s to date, from 2013 to here. That
Wow.
makes it the second highest console sold of all time. The first one being PS2 at
Yeah.
150 million. So
How
and
much
they
was the PS2 when that came out, I wonder?
399.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. No,
That
actually, I
makes
think it
sense.
was 299. I may be wrong. I think it was 299.
Yeah.
But the thing is that like if you wanted to buy it early on, you would have to buy it through a bundle. So like with an extra controller, a memory card,
Yeah.
and the game for them to be sold. Which
I mean,
GameStop's doing that right now, by the
yeah.
way. If you want to get it there, like the disc version, you have to buy it for $730 because it comes with two controllers, a disc, and a GameStop gift card.
Because the attachment rate is horrible for the
Hmm.
PS5 because of the price. Nobody wants to buy extra stuff for it, so they're bundling it and
Hmm.
forcing you. All right, you want a system, you're going to buy these things as
Yeah,
well.
and the advantage is that helps GameStop have them a little bit more time in stock than the other ones because the other retailers sell the console literally at the price at the suggested retail price at 399 or 499. They don't force bundles. That's why those things
I may not
go
like it,
out of
but it
stock.
works. So
Yeah,
I got to give them credit where it's due. They're
I
doing the
know.
right
It
stuff.
still kind of sucks because I'm like like if I want to get like for example, I went all digital last generation. I didn't buy a single disc game. Even the few that I bought, I sold them because I bought very cheap digital versions of them. So I was like, and also considering I had a problem with a PS3 where my disk drive stopped reading, I had to ask a friend to let me borrow his, whose disk drive works.
That might have something to do with it.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to have to have a disk drive completely mess up and not be able to have games when
Hmm.
digital it just works. So, and if I want to buy a digital one on GameStop, it's $5.99. So almost the price that the PS3 was just by itself, which
Yeah, that's
sucks.
true.
Oh, and yeah,
Yeah,
Sony made $25 billion last fiscal year. So from
$5 billion.
$1 billion. That's a lot
Well,
of money.
I'm glad they're doing that because that's the only place Sony is making money right now.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's the ironic thing because like in the next story, like Microsoft also had their financials their financial call where they talk with the shareholders and give the earnings and they haven't said to anyone how many Xbox they have sold. They stopped doing that back in 2014 because the direct comparisons were always going to make them look worse if they were like because when the last time that they gave consoles sold, they was like, we have sold 4 million Xbox Ones, and in that point the PS4 had sold set the 7.6. That was the last time they reported numbers. So from there they just started talking about engagement. This is
Hmm.
how much money we made in all these services and all that to like obfuscate the fact that they're
Yeah,
selling less. So they made $15 billion last fiscal year, which yes, it's 10 billion less than PlayStation did, but you have to keep in mind that a lot of that money is made by services like Game Pass and their digital sales, and them also having the PC ecosystem that they sell games to, and all of that. And this makes it
hmm,
more impressive because anecdotal evidence shows that they have sold significantly less consoles than PlayStation, and revenue-wise, they're only 10 billion behind. So
true.
not too bad.
Now, is that tying in Microsoft in total or Microsoft's game division? Because if it's in total, that's interesting because, I mean, you've got everything Microsoft makes is encapsulated in that 15 billion, which is kind of impressive.
Yeah, that's the thing. This 15 billion is just Xbox. This doesn't include,
Okay, that's what I was wondering
yeah,
because
that doesn't
that's
include Microsoft as a corporation. Just
right.
what Microsoft makes year in and year out is nuts
Is
because of the
stupid.
Windows platform and everything that they have. So yeah, it's Xbox. The difference between Sony and Microsoft is that Xbox is just a footnote to Microsoft's overall
Hmm.
financials, whereas PlayStation for Sony is like the cream of the crop.
Hmm.
So puts things in perspective. So then buying Bethesda last year, which happened in between during our hiatus, they scooped up Bethesda for $7.6 billion, and they made that, and they and Microsoft as a corporation made that money back within the quarter.
Hmm.
It's nuts the like how they're set up.
There's something that you had shared in the chat though, that was very interesting. The fact that Sony had purchased Insomniac and a couple of
Mm-hmm.
others, for a much less amount of money, and they have turned out far more games than Microsoft after acquiring
Yes.
like the freaking Mandarin 10 Rings level
Mm-hmm.
of studios,
Yeah.
just putting them on left and right and then doing relatively nothing with it. So unless we're
Yeah.
expecting a lot,
Yeah. So just for perspective, so like Microsoft started buying studios back in like 2018. They bought five at E3 that year. Ninja Theory, On the Labs, um, Compulsion Games, Playground Games, and I don't remember a fifth one, which one it was, but they bought five studios. From
okay,
those studios, then Insomniac put out Spider Man, the 2018 Spider Man that year. At that point, they were not owned by Sony. On 2019, on August of that year, that's when Sony put a ring on it and bought Insomniac for $239 million,
okay,
which at the time was said to be a lot of money in 2019.
yeah, that's
That
a lot of money.
Yeah, and that was before in 2020 the Microsoft overspent on Bethesda for 7.6
I
billion.
guess we'll
Big
see
D
if they
energy.
really overset or not, or overspent or not. But
Yeah,
my goodness, the concept of spending that much
relatively
money
where
for it.
relatively speaking to where Bethesda was at, they bought Bethesda at their worst possible moment, like quality wise.
That
Fallout
is
70,
true. I
yeah,
think
Fallout
they could have gotten
76.
way less. They could have spent way less for the same acquisition. Because I
Mm-hmm.
mean, when you think about it, the Disney bought Star Wars for half
Four
that
four
amount,
billion for 4 billion.
4 billion
Yeah,
compared to Bethesda's 7,
yeah, and
and
that's the thing. It's Star Wars.
exactly.
Exactly, it's Star
You're
Wars.
buying the IP of Star Wars. You're not
Yeah,
just buying a gaming company. My goodness, that is,
yeah,
oh
yeah. I can see that they were just like Bethesda must have been found themselves really vulnerable after having so many subpar games back to back to back, like
yeah.
Fallout 76, Rage 2, the horrible Wolfenstein Youngblood. Uh,
I'm glad I
so,
didn't buy that.
good thing I played it on Game Pass.
Mm, true.
So it's I think kind of the whole Godfather thing. I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. If you're Microsoft and be like, we're gonna pay you 7.6 billion cash, here it is.
Hmm.
You're not gonna say no to that, and have like first party protection in a way,
Hmm.
because there's like certain different expectations, especially for Microsoft that are putting everything in Game Pass.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy, but yeah, both consoles are relatively healthy. Next week we're gonna have the Nintendo numbers, so I want to see how much they sold in a year I consider the worst they've ever had release wise, but some of the most financially successful years ever, which is
I
insane.
yeah, they did. They released hardly anything, and they did some of the best numbers, I'm pretty sure, that they've ever done.
Yeah,
The Switch is just a phenomenal machine, even though it's not as powerful as anything else that's a home console.
and the new one's coming. Remember the report?
Exactly,
Yeah,
and it's supposed to be native 4K, but
I want to see that. I want
I
to
don't
see.
know what they're gonna make that thing look like to be able to do that. It's gonna be a freaking. It's
Mhm.
basically gonna be the Wii U,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
My thing for that one, I can see the switch this Switch Pro. Let's call it that because PS4 Pro.
yeah,
They're not gonna call it Switch X like the Xbox One X. So that this hypothetical Switch Pro, I can see that like the screen that they have will remain the same, but the processing power when you dock it, that's what's gonna go higher because you
Right.
don't need 4K something in a small screen. You're not going to see it.
You're not.
It's
Yeah, I was just
unnecessary.
thinking about that because you can get away with the handheld runs at a smaller power. So I'm thinking whatever they're doing, it's going to be like a console in two parts. You have whatever like drivers, RAM to hold and hang on to that much, but when you dock it in, I'm thinking there's going to be even more that's attached to the console.
Hmm.
Whereas right now, when you have this thing, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to pull it far enough. You
Hmm.
got this thing, like 90% of it is empty completely.
Yeah.
um like that's the whole thing right there. That's it.
Yeah. The processing
But
is in the machine that you hold. That's what's crazy.
exactly. So I'm thinking all they can do is they'd have to split it between the console itself and whatever is in there so that when it docks up, it gains all of this power. I just wonder how seamlessly it can do that because that's where you get a lot of confusion in the software department. I mean, that's why old games on PC just can't be played unless you know how to turn off the power of your own system.
Which is
Um,
crazy to be able
that
to do
blows my
that.
mind where it's like, oh yes, you have five CPUs or you have two CPUs in your computer. All of a sudden, each one is trying to run the same old game, and suddenly it can't play it. Like, why can't you just figure this out?
Hmm.
Don't make me be a programmer,
Yeah.
guys. I'm not that good.
So I do wonder, is Nintendo going to show the Switch Pro at E3? We'll see, but we'll hear about their financials next week. So as
If
a
they
quick,
do, they need to show Breath of the Wild too.
they
I'm
have
good
to.
with
They
that.
totally have to, especially.
I just hope
Well,
it's not going to be exclusive to the
yeah,
Pro.
I don't think it will. I completely doubt they will be that dumb. But it's Nintendo; they do dumb stuff. But yeah, congrats to Sony and Microsoft for making a lot of money last year. It's good to see that both hardware companies are doing well because the healthier they are, the better our industry will be. So, next story: Naughty Dog's vice president, Last of Us writer and creative director Neil Druckmann has announced that he and co-writer Haley Gross have written an outline for a potential The Last of Us Part 3, but that the existence of said outline doesn't mean the game is in production or will actually be made. Neil states Naughty Dog is currently weighing their options about what to produce. Either this new Last of Us game, something new, please, or
Mm.
going back to an old franchise. Double, please. As an aside, we have to remember a Bloomberg report from a few weeks back insinuated that Naughty Dog is currently working on a remake for the original Last of Us for PS5. I can see your face, Paul.
I'm just going to tell you real quick. Hang on a second. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Oh man,
Why?
yeah.
Why are they doing this?
So I'm gonna put
Oh
it.
my goodness.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
put it this way. So, we recorded this way too late, so I didn't. So I don't think we even had a time to say what our top 10 was for last year. I'll just say Last of Us 2 was my game of the year. I'll just put it out. It was the game that impacted me most last year. I don't want another one.
Yep.
Not right now.
I don't.
Like I don't. It's like do something else. Naughty Dog, please. Like last generation was the first one where they didn't create something new. It was sequels to things that they done before. Every generation before it, PlayStation 1, Crash Bandicoot. PlayStation 2, Jack and Daxter. PlayStation 3, the Uncharted trilogy. That generation was way too long, so they did The Last of Us right at the tail end. So yeah, they did
Yeah.
that. But now on PlayStation 4, they did Uncharted 4, Lost Legacy, and now Last of Us Part 2.
Mm,
It's time to do something else.
yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to a Last of Us Part 3, but not immediately. Especially hearing that they're remaking the first game, which I'm like, especially that report that no one has come out officially to say it, but I trust Bloomberg, Jason Schreier, even though he's a big
I don't know
jerk
where all
online.
of that came from. Just my goodness.
Yeah, because
Like,
remember that if because this was from a weeks back, so that's why it didn't put it. That was the Bloomberg report that put us very crestfallen about the idea that Sony was pursuing just big games, and they had this studio that that was like a 30-person group in the San Diego studio that were trying to concept into making a new game. But to convince people to keep fun to that studio, they started remaking The Last of Us, and then they became support studio for Naughty Dog to try to push Last of Us 2 out the door because I think kept getting delayed. And Then and then kind of Naughty Dog took over that studio and kind of took their work of doing the Last of Us remake to make it in house. While on top of that, Sony banned the guys that made Days Gone, uh,
Got
unsuc-
absorbed.
unsuccessfully pitched a sequel to Days Gone, and for like almost 18 months, apparently they were working on an Uncharted game they didn't want to make, and they lost the leadership of that studio, and they managed to negotiate themselves out of that. So now they're working on a new IP, but
It just sounds all over
corporate,
the place.
and
It
it sounds too
sounds so
corporate.
strange.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know what was going on. Whatever that is, it definitely wasn't meant to see the light of day ever. And I almost feel like some of it was a little spoken too heavily. Like each one of these things by itself would be a crazy amount of news for the day. The fact that it all came out at once
Yeah,
almost feels contrived.
yeah.
It almost feels like somebody is throwing us the craziest of red herrings.
Mhm.
Um,
But I don't think they're red herrings, especially coming from where the report came
I know
from.
it almost sounds too. Make sure I just didn't. Okay, I almost thought I unplugged myself. It almost sounds like too much to all at once, if that's
Yeah,
a good way to explain it.
yeah. To me, it's like I just don't like the idea that something like The Last of Us, which when it first came out was like this prestige, unique thing,
Mm.
is becoming so commercialized. Because don't forget, there's a HBO Last of Us TV series coming
Which
out.
is crazy in itself. And uh, for whatever reason, the same people that are always like, whenever a character is done with telling their story, you should kill them off and move on to the next people that have more interesting stories to tell. But they're also really excited about this. And I don't understand where the connection is. Uh, I think the best way to horribly explain it is if you remember the South Park episode where everyone was smelling their own farts.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the way everyone treats The Last of Us sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that it's bad, not to say that there's any problems with it. I have my own problems with the way
Mm-hmm.
some of the people decided to tell that story, but the fandom's really creepy leech attitude towards the game
Mm-hmm.
and the series in general to be like more of it is always better. It was such a unique and amazing storytelling method that we need to retell it and tell it in different ways and use different people to tell it, and now we're going to continue the story even further. Just let it go and keep
Mm-hmm.
telling different stories.
Or come back
um
much later to it. Just kind
yeah,
of like let it breathe. Like, let's not forget that this last game was highly controversial because of the leaks
yeah,
and the narrative that formed around that game, and even as the game was happening, and even it being a divisive game by design, according to its director. It's
yeah.
just I don't feel this is the right time to do one because of how polarized everyone was left after that game. Even though it really resonated with me.
We need a
Uh,
palate cleanser is what
Yeah,
we
we need
need.
a palate cleanser. Like Naughty Dog needs a palate cleanser. Show
Yeah.
that they're not just the Last of Us machine. Show that they can do it again. Like when Uncharted 2 send them to the stratosphere. And then Last of Us also send them again to the stratosphere with like creativity and what the studio was capable of. Like,
Mhm.
why not just do something completely different? There had been rumors that they may work on a sci-fi game. Let them. Let them work in a sci-fi game. Like
Do
they were
something.
teasing, yeah, they were teasing sci-fi stuff with the collectibles of The Last of Us Part Two. I would love that because then if you nail that, then you can come back to it to this. Show that you're more than just The Last of Us. And also personally, I'm kind of done with the grimy, hyper violent, post apocalyptic thing for now. Like,
I think I've been done with that for a few years now, and Last of Us was right at the tail end of being done with it. The
mhm,
storytelling was just enough to get me past it,
mhm,
and now with Last of Us 2, it feels like it's more of the same. I know that's a really highly all-encompassing statement, and I know there's a lot
mhm.
to do with that,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of innovation that went into it, but
I personally don't see where the story goes. Like,
it's
I don't know what it like.
either Ellie
There's
goes
nothing.
after
Mhm,
Dina, but I mean, Abby's gone. You can't bring her back without denoting everything that happened in The Last of Us 2.
Hmm.
That would just not work.
Yeah, because for Last of Us, like the original ambiguous ending, at least had the both the 50-50 potential of you can pick something from here and make a story or leave it be. It had
Right.
that. Two doesn't have that same kind of ambiguity. It felt more. It felt kind of like the complete ambiguous ending that you can kind of leave it there
Hmm.
more than the first one for me.
I
So
agree.
like they're like this second game literally made a whole game out of Joel's decision from the first one.
Yeah.
That was the crux of it, and the theme that they developed. So yeah, I don't know what the third one would be, but yeah, just leave it be Naughty Dog for now.
Hmm.
Or and I wouldn't even want them to do another Uncharted personally. Just make something else. Have another studio work on Uncharted because
The
you
only
make
way I would allow that is continuing with Nathan's
daughter.
daughter,
Yeah.
but it would have to be like very far down the line or a very different kind of story.
Hmm.
Um, it would, oh god, just imagine if they tried to merge the two with if they did Uncharted characters but did like the theming and grittiness of Last of Us. I would be
I
very
will lose
sad.
it. I will lose it. But and the thing is, Uncharted 4 almost, and that's the thing. Like when you compare Uncharted 4 compare it to the original PS3 trilogy, Uncharted 4 is
That
more
is true.
somber.
It is
Uncharted
extremely
4 is
somber,
more it's more grounded. Like it doesn't even have like the outlandish Indiana Jones supernatural twist from the end
which
that the
I didn't
originals
even know
had.
how to feel about that when I first played the game, and now I love it because it did bring it down to earth a lot. But I
Hmm.
think that that game single handedly had the most growth out of so many of the characters in there
Yeah.
between Nate actually learning his
Hmm.
lesson to stop,
Yeah. No, that's the
chill.
thing. Like Uncharted 4 story is the best of all of them.
Oh, it's
Obviously, it
fantastic.
came at the expense of the pulpiness of the trilogy, but it worked for that game. I don't think you can make another Uncharted on that tone again because that worked because it was the end. When you're
Yeah,
ending something,
it was
that's
the culmination of three other games.
yeah. They managed to not make a crystal skull out of a fourth thing after like what happened with Indiana Jones. So, that's why I'm
Just
like, yeah.
pictured what would have happened if they tried that. Oh gosh.
I mean, just imagine Nate being put inside a fridge and surviving a nuclear blast. I mean,
Didn't they say something about they're making another Indiana Jones game
yeah,
now? Oh my
and
gosh.
yeah, Bethesda is making a new Indiana Jones game. The guys that made Wolfenstein. So I wonder if it's gonna be a first-person shooter Indiana Jones game or if it's gonna be a third-person adventure
Man, I don't
game.
know if it would have to be some kind of adventure game because
It's
the more
Indiana
I've
Jones.
yeah, the more I've watched the movies, the more I've realized that Indy never has access to his gun, and whenever he does, the fight is instantly over.
Yeah, like the first one.
He fires like a grand total of like maybe
Five.
5 or 6
Yeah,
shots,
yeah.
maybe.
I
Um,
recently rewatched all the movies, so I can confirm that. And
yeah,
even the second one, he loses his gun
he
when
loses his gun.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then
um,
the third one, he has the machine like he grabs the MP40
mhm.
from a
And
Nazi,
he
but not
wipes
his
people
revolver.
out with that thing. Raiders of the Lost Ark, he only fires a handful of
Mhm.
rounds, and whenever he does, it pretty much instantly either changes the tide of the fight or it ends it.
Yeah.
I'll never forget being on the tank in I think
Hmm.
Last Crusade. He fires his gun, it goes through like 3 guys.
Uh-huh. Oh
It's
yeah.
just the guns are so powerful whenever he holds them,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. But anyway, going back to the topic, I do think that Indiana Jones has been snubbed for video game material. I think you can always make more of them. Just
Mhm.
looking at the amount of books that they made out of that IP,
Yeah.
um, would be fantastic.
Yeah,
I
and I
think
would say
Last of
like
Us
with
needs to chill out.
Uncharted, with Uncharted right now, Dormant and Tomb Raider having just finished their trilogy back in 2018.
Yeah,
We haven't had an action adventure in that mold for a while, so it's the right time to bring him back. So, but
or
we'll see.
something.
But we'll see. Naughty Dog, just surprise me, please. Just don't do another one of those games. Moving on, EA owned studio Respawn Entertainment had quite a week, as they announced a permanent new 3v3 PvP mode. It's like an arena mode for Apex Legends.
Hmm.
They also won an Oscar for a documentary they made for their Medal of Honor Above and Beyond VR game, which was crazy.
I
And
yeah, that blew my mind because I didn't know that was even able to win an Oscar.
Yeah,
Second,
but I
I'd
guess if you
only
can
heard about
submit
it
it,
after it won.
yeah. And I wonder because last year was so anemic.
Oh, you think that it might have had more of a shot because less
Yeah,
things were out?
yeah, but hey, they got it won, so it must have been really good at the eyes of the Oscar
Frick. I
people.
mean, the Oscar executives just eat the crap out of World War II sappy things towards that. I mean, gosh, that's such an oversimplification, but
Yeah.
like it has its place and it's fantastic to like show the stories of that. Maybe it's because I live in the city where the World War II museum is, so I hear it
Mhm.
all the time. But um, the fact that if you put that in, it is almost guaranteed to win some kind of Oscar because the executives are going to rep. They're going to identify. There it is. Identify with that way more than I guess your average consumer nowadays,
Mhm.
especially us who has grown up in the oversaturation of World War II games and
Yeah,
media.
but hey, they won an Oscar for that, so that's another feather in the cap to Respawn.
I gotta go
They
watch it now.
yeah, they also announced the official PS5, Xbox Series X version of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which whenever this episode goes live, which might either be a Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on how the edit goes, um, you'll know when you're seeing it. Happy May the 4th be with you
Happy
because
May the Fourth,
we're recording
man.
on May 3rd.
I'm gonna have to watch the Bad Batch that's coming out
Yeah, tomorrow.
tomorrow. What the frick? Oh,
Yeah, that's
jeez.
what I tell you. Happy May the 4th. So,
Holy
but
crap.
going back to Fallen Order, yeah,
Yeah,
the PS5 Xbox Series X version is coming this summer, and it's free to anyone that already owns the game.
if
So
it's free, it's
yes,
for me.
and apparently there's a job listing available that indicates that Respawn may be working on a new IP. Just as we're talking about Naughty Dog, that apparently they're gonna do more of the things that they're doing. I'm glad other studios are pursuing doing new stuff because it's a new generation of consoles. This is when you introduce
It
new
is.
stuff.
And it's crazy. Respawn is now working on Fallen Order, Apex Legends, and whatever this new thing is, at least, if not more.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, they're technically still kind of working on Titanfall 2 with the
Yeah. Well, Titanfall.
non-existent multiplayer.
Yeah, but Titanfall 2 like went free to play this last weekend on Steam, and the numbers for that thing rose. So I'm glad Titanfall 2
It's
has,
true.
even though it went criminally underplayed early on, it has found a way to stay alive.
It was such a travesty. They put
Yeah,
it between Battlefield and Call of Duty,
yeah,
and it was
on 2016,
crushed.
and that game was better than those games. That's what they
It
are.
was
That's
fantastic.
just ah, but yeah,
Still,
well,
some of the like really good emotional storytelling for a first-person shooter
with the robots,
with
with BT,
Optimus Prime
yeah,
voicing BT. Like, where do y'all get any better than that? Anyway,
yes. All right, moving
um,
on real quick.
yeah,
So this one really upsets me.
we're gonna talk about
So
this one, aren't we?
Activision for the second time this year continues to squander all the goodwill they generated last year with the announcement that Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, the developer Toys for Bob, has been gutted with layoffs, and the remaining staff members have been moved as a support studio for, you guessed it, Call of Duty Warzone. This news follows what happened earlier in the year when Vicarious Visions, developer of the excellent Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 Plus 2 remake from last year, and also the developer of the Crash Bandicoot trilogy, Insane Trilogy from 2017, was basically folded to a support studio for Blizzard after they had done work in remaking Diablo 2, which will release sometime later this year. It should be noted that the Activision owned developers that are all in Call of Duty support purgatory include Raven Software, High Moon Studios, Beanox, and now Toys for Bob, who assist main studios Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Sledgehammer Games with their respective yearly installments. Sledgehammer allegedly is next in the docket with a new Call of Duty set in an alternate history World War II setting, allegedly.
Oh, so they're pulling the. Oh my gosh, they're pulling the Wolfenstein.
Yeah, Activision is just a Call of Duty machine, and I effing hate it. Like I absolutely hate it. Like they have
This
all these
blew my
studios.
mind.
Like Raven Software has made really great. They did some great Marvel games and some great shooters. High Moon Studios made the Transformers War for Cybertron, Fall for Cybertron games.
Mm,
Beanox has
those
done,
were amazing, actually.
yeah. Beanox and High Moon also did the Deadpool game from 2013. That was it's
Oh
fun,
yeah,
yeah. And and be
I
and
didn't play it, but I watched people play it
I
and
have it on
people have
PS4.
kind
I
of
actually
fanboyed
was
about it.
playing it a couple weeks back because I was kind of on a Marvel binge. Beanox, who did the Crash Tag Team Racing, the CTR remake from 2019, and has worked on a couple Spider-Man games also support studio for Call of Duty. Now Toys for Bob, who did the Spyro remaster remake from 2018. They did Skylanders. They did the amazing Crash 4 from last year. Now working for Call of Duty. And I'm like, I'm wishing for the moment where the Call of Duty bubble is gonna pop, like finally, and then they like
I don't even know because we
it's
were
still
leading
insanely
up to
popular.
that. Even through Infinite Warfare, I was, excuse me, I went through a time where I wasn't buying any of them, but I would like borrow it from my brother or another friend to play through the campaign and stuff, and like I could feel the drained atmosphere of it. And then I will give it to them, they reinvigorated it with Modern Warfare
Yeah,
2019. Was a fantastic recreation and return to form.
yeah, because after Infinite Warfare, we got World War II from Sledgehammer,
Yep,
which
which
sold well but had very little
I
fanfare.
couldn't vibe with it honestly.
Um, then Black Ops 4 was the one that completely ditched the campaign because they couldn't get it out the door on time. And that one sold a lot on the Black Ops name alone because Black Ops
Yeah,
has always been like one of the more, if not the most popular sub branding of that series, going back to like Black Ops 2.
right next to Modern Warfare for sure.
Yeah, it's always been between those. I think Black Ops was always a little bit more popular because of the zombie mode, but
Probably, yeah.
always and then Modern Warfare, the 2019 one was the one that they invested a lot in, like, into the engine, the feel.
They
You did
put
the review when we were reviewing.
money in that. I did a good deep dive review, which
Yeah,
can we even still find that Alejandro ever?
I think it's hidden somewhere. I might
I have
copy
it
and paste it
saved
and
on
say,
my
yeah,
Google Drive
yeah.
personally, but yeah, I don't
Yeah, it was
think
from
it.
the website that went from the website that went under the Statics Media
Yeah,
website. I have a bunch of stuff there that I would like to like copy and paste and take out of there, like my Death Stranding review, my
true.
Super Mario Maker 2 review.
My Devil May Cry
There's a,
retrospective.
yeah, that one's on Critical Corner still.
Oh man,
You can find that in Critical Corner when
I was very long-winded, but I really think
yes,
if I made a video out of that, I could have shrunk it to about 10 minutes.
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but going back to that, like it was this sucks with the Toys for Bob thing. I'm like, yeah, they went to all this trouble to revive Crash Bandicoot, sold a lot with the
it did
trilogy,
fantastic.
yeah, and then did Crash Bandicoot 4, which was better as a game
Mhm.
than even that trilogy. And now they're killing the studio and folding it into support studio. They're basically killed Crash Bandicoot again.
Blows my
Ugh.
mind how they put it on a pedestal. Said, "Look, guys, look, Crash Bandicoot. You remember that? It's so
Yeah,
amazing."
no,
Yeah.
but more, yes, no. More importantly, like last year, Activision was like, you know what? Yeah, we've been the Call of Duty guys for a while. Let's try not to be that. On 2019, yeah, we published Sekiro. That we don't own that, but yeah, we're gonna publish that to diversify our portfolio. Oh yeah, people want Tony Hawk back. Just bring back a remake by the guys that know how to make remakes
Hmm.
and do an excellent 1 and 2 remake. Oh, you guys love Crash? Here's 4. Oh, never mind. We're just called back to Call of Duty again. It's unfortunately the market speaks, and I wish at least in the video games that can be bought, another one can come out that takes away from Call of Duty, so that they finally realize that they can have all these studios, almost 7 studios, working in the same game.
Hmm.
7 studios. Ah man, it's especially Crash 4 was one of my favorites from last year. But yeah,
And with all those studios, they still can't lower the amount that it takes on your freaking hard drive.
yeah,
Activision, get your
yeah,
crap together.
yeah. They feel like they want to be like, oh yeah, they know they have such a hold on people because, like, for example, my brother loves playing Call of Duty that he can't download any other game because he always have to have space for the stupid updates.
I on my PS5, I have enough space for Warzone, Cold War, and like one other game, maybe, and then all the rest has to go onto my
It's
USB
ridiculous.
space.
It's like ridiculous. It's like it's. I wish like everything doesn't last forever, and I wish that Call of Duty bubble would just pop, but we'll see. final story, and this
Yep.
kind of leaked on the like actually over the weekend. New concept art leaked over the weekend from the new next gen only Battlefield game coming out this year. The concept art leak shows the name will allegedly be Battlefield 6, unless it's been photoshopped, and it will take the series back to a modern setting since the notorious Battlefield 4 came out at the launch of the PS4 Xbox One generation. That was in 2013. And I say notorious because that game was broken AF. That was like the poster child of the broken games that would come out this
Hmm.
generation. And subsequent entries made by DICE focused on World War One with Battlefield 1 and World War Two with Battlefield 5. Should be noted the Cops vs. Robbers Battlefield game, Battlefield Hardline, was made by now defunct Dead Space studio Visceral Games. Just in case people are like, oh yeah, DICE made that. No, that was Visceral. The rumors
Hmm.
also mention the game will be closer to a futuristic take on modern combat. But those are just rumors, and the trailer should be dropping in the coming days. We'll see by that. Do you play Battlefield 5? Which, by the way, Battlefield 5 available this month on
That
PS
it
Plus.
is.
So
I did play Battlefield 5. I dropped off on it very hard because it was
I
it's
didn't buy with it. I didn't
yep.
buy with it.
I
I buy
vibed
with
very heavily with Battlefield 1.
one,
I
and I
love
think it was
that
because
game so
I think
much.
I bet the reason why you buy and I buy was because it was World War One, a series of. Okay, by the way, just as a sec, are you hearing some voices?
I do.
God damn it! So outside my window, there's like this trucker that sells vegetables that likes passing by. So that's gonna
Really?
show up in the podcast. Okay, that's awesome.
It's not very loud. It
But you
was
could hear
like
it.
for a second. I don't hear it anymore.
Yeah. Okay,
But
but yeah.
that's funny.
What a dumpster fire. Okay. But going back to Battle, you buy with Battlefield One. I think the same way I did because it was World War One, a war we never seen games.
I think mostly that's true. I think they got it really right with the atmosphere, the environments, the feeling of literally like walking through. You see the rain hitting your gun and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. It was amazing. Just back to what we were saying, the compositing
Mm-hmm.
of your character into the world, making it feel so seamless. The balancing at first wasn't really there, but if you like, there was nothing like having that grand operation um, with the blimp flying overhead. You're all rushing down a mountain into machine gun fire. Fantastic feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Battlefield 5 feels like it took a step back. There's
Mm-hmm.
something about either the lighting,
It looks
it's
prettier. It
it
definitely
looks
looks
pretty,
prettier.
but there's something off about the feeling of running through the worlds.
Mm-hmm.
The way they changed the like getting
Spotting.
down,
Oh yeah, like
the
the respawning.
spotting. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
spotting got just exclusive to snipers, and every time you're down, you see your hand like being lifted to,
yep. The
and
guns didn't feel right. They changed the machine guns to the point where they're pretty much unusable unless you're prone,
mhm.
and I hated that because support was one of my favorite classes. The maps didn't feel as strong for me, and of course their focus on the untold stories of Battlefield, of World War II rather, and then it just feels like it fell flat because frankly I needed a little bit more power out of some of that,
Yeah.
and I just didn't get it.
And my thing with Battlefield 5 was the fact that it launched unfinished. Um,
That too,
they
and then they
it
never
barely had.
finished it.
They did eventually, but the game underperformed so severely that support for it got cut out way faster than I would have expected. Like Battlefront 2 got a little bit more support than Battlefield 5, which is nuts to think
Yeah,
about. But
jeez.
But yeah, they have a lot to prove with this one. I don't know what happened with five after one was so good in 2016.
Hmm.
But yeah, new Battlefield this year. At least we let's see if it comes out this year.
I'm probably gonna get it, and I'm probably gonna play it, but
Yeah,
just because of
and
Battlefield
hey,
being
maybe
like
it's
that
gotten
one
better.
game,
Maybe it's gotten better. Everyone can try it out with
I'm
PS
gonna
Plus
try
to
it
speak. Yeah,
for sure because they added the Japanese and American um,
front. Mhm.
fronts with that, and I mean that was a step forward of what I wanted, but also there was just something missing out of it, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to try it, give it the old college try, and I really hope it's gonna be better.
Well, yeah, but that's what probably it will be better because people will need to chat with people because there's breaking news right now. Discord has announced a partnership with PlayStation. I
Excuse
just
me?
got a Discord, yeah,
Wait, they were talking about the possibility
of
of
Microsoft buying Discord.
Microsoft buying it, but it's actually a partnership with PlayStation.
Yeah,
That's good
yeah, that's
because
great
that's
because
what I was.
this, yeah, this Discord's one of the best
Oh my
chat
gosh.
apps ever.
Well,
So
that's what I was going to say at the very start of this with Among Us going on there. They're going to have to do some serious revamping of their party system because it's such crap right now,
yeah,
especially on PlayStation 5 because they leaned even further into it and it is impossible to even see
yeah,
my friends list unless I go to a separate menu.
that's
Um,
awful. I've just heard nightmares about the PS5 UI. That
it's
it's a step back from the
terrible.
PS4.
I mean, I wouldn't say terrible. It's just it is a step back, and I don't like the way they did it. I like the quick menu, but it is really messing me up half the
Yeah,
time. But so
I
yeah,
saw
the
that
fact that
I saw
they're
they
doing that,
bore I saw they borked trophies, like how you look at trophies that it's
it's
like a
really
list,
weird. They
and like the list that was like from top to bottom is like this card
mhm.
system. I'm like that looks
You can pull it up to open up an actual listing. Oh no, it actually still is the cards, even if you pull up the trophies for it. It's just weird. I don't
yeah.
like it, but
Hopefully they redesigned it. Like it seems like a UI that could be not baked in
mm,
enough that like you have to give props to Microsoft. You should see what the UI of the Xbox One was back in 2013 and what it is right now. How much they
I remember
changed.
watching my brother play it because he was one of the idiots that got the Xbox day one instead
Mhm.
of a PS4, even though he knew that
Yeah,
he was going to play it more.
yeah. Okay, so that was all the news, Paul. That
That was all
was
the news.
yeah,
And what was the one thing that we were going to talk about besides? Oh yeah, Alejandro.
hmm
Um, I have to flex on you real quick
yeah,
because I got to tell you, all of our listeners, I called it.
yeah. He did.
I called it for the PlayStation 5 availability. I want you to go back and find the receipts for me
Yeah,
because
I don't think they were in podcast form. I wish they were.
there might be receipts for our chat actually,
Yeah,
but man, I hope I said it somewhere in the podcast that
you said that you were gonna get it to hell and Almighty when it came out,
I was
and
going to get it.
I'm surprised you didn't jump into this when we were talking about the PS5
I,
cluster.
I blanked out while I
Yeah,
was talking about it, but I did want to at least bring it up briefly because I was working for GameStop at the time when the PlayStation 4 came out, and it was unable to be found at all. And for whatever reason, people seem to have forgotten about that. And I knew this time PlayStation 5 was going to be impossible to find, coupled with the fact that it was a
the
new
pandemic
launch
and the pandemic.
and the pandemic. It was a perfect storm. So I knew I was going to find that. So I used people I knew. I found myself a PS5 the day of, thanks to a contact from my old GameStop days. They were able to hold on to it for me
Yeah,
while I was
just
on my
storm. Just
honeymoon.
yeah, no, you store. No, I remember how it was. Like it was the day of the September PlayStation event that unveiled the price and all that, and
Yes,
then
I drove out that day.
literally that day, even though they had said that pre-orders were going to open the next day, they started opening that day, and they called you. You just stormed out of your house
Mm-hmm.
and drove all the
Because they
way
said
there.
because corporate GameStop and everyone else said, all right, it's going to be the next day, and then my friends notified me in our group chat and said something went weird. They are opening it today secretly. If you want one, get over here.
Yeah,
And
and that's
I
emblematic.
left my house instantly.
Yeah, and that's emblematic of this church. Look how little control Sony had in the way they took orders for this thing and how they try to
Zero.
supply it. It's a mess. It sucks. Like
They did
I
not
hate that I
plan it
have
out.
like notifications for like six accounts that notify me if there's gonna be console. I hate that.
I am so like sympathetic to everyone that didn't expect it. You were not one of the people that I am going to mention right now, but there were a lot of people out there that ridiculed me
For getting it along.
for
Yeah.
getting excited and immediately want to jump on this. They said, "Nah, you're wasting your money. You're wasting your time. I'm going to wait for 6 months, get it on sale. I'm going to be good. I'm going to pick up all the games for it because there's no games coming out for the PS5 on release." I'm looking at all of y'all right now. I'm laughing in your face.
It's been 6 months and
It
it's
has
still
been 6 months.
impossible.
You cannot find this thing. I'm expecting it to be like that at least until the holiday season.
Yeah.
At least.
At least it just sucks because I really want it. I really want the machine. I didn't. To be fair to me, I didn't get it at launch because there was no way for me to get it. There were
Yeah.
like
You,
because of
you
where I
were
live.
within one of those people that was like, you're not going to find it unless somebody finds it in the States and sends it to you.
Exactly,
Which,
and travel was not available at that time, so I wasn't gonna risk. So I was like, I'll just wait. Like circumstances will make me wait.
mhm,
But now it's just been. Here's the worst part. PJ, our friend,
yeah.
he
Oh,
was at a
God.
Walmart. Look at it. Oh,
He found one.
oh, this thing's ugly. I don't want it. I'm like, get your butt back there and get it for me. And then when he goes back, he was already sold. Like,
He's like, "Oh, I'm good. I've got an Xbox. PJ, I'm talking to you right now. I see, I see that bias."
yeah.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's basically a show for us. So real quick,
That's a show.
section I wanted to introduce, and this I didn't want to spring this to you immediately. We talked about this kind of like try to make a little bit of a game book club
Yep.
between us to try to work our way through our backlog because I know you have a bunch of games. I have a ton of games.
You have
And-
like 4 times the amount that I do, but yes.
Yeah, but it would be enough to kind of carry us. So that because that way it would complement what we would be playing at the beginning of the show and all that. Especially in between releases, especially right now that releases have been very anemic, all things considered. So at the end of each show, I want you to always have like a list of games from your backlog that you have some interest in, and you're gonna pick one that we're gonna talk about during our what we've been playing section at the beginning to see if we find something interesting to play. Because I know we have a bunch of games that we bought that we haven't even played because digital hoarding is a thing.
Yep.
And then maybe depending on how news goes, I feel like there wasn't a big topic for this week, so it was just a smorgasbord of news. But like we used to do before, is like if news are anemic, we can try to like pad out time with whatchamacallit, like with a fun topic like that open, like the one that you mentioned that you asked in our group chat uh, about like the freedom of games and how you approach them, something like that. Like we'll play it week to week, but yeah, at the end of the show, have something if a backlog that you say you're gonna play, so we can have something to look forward to the next day, unless it's a new release that you know you're gonna get. Like right now, I'm sequestering myself from buying anything new because I just want to play things in the better machine. So I'd rather save for that. So unless it's unless it's a must play, we'll see.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you right now. For me, my next one that I'll probably have played by the time we meet again is going to be Resident Evil 3.
Oh, you haven't played Resident Evil 3?
I just bought it. I think not yesterday, but maybe 2 days ago. I haven't opened it yet. But it was like one of the last days of that sale that ended on at the end of April, and I was like, you know what? I think this game's worth the $20. We talked about it.
I bought it for 20. It's totally worth it.
I was definitely procrastinating, but I knew that if I did too much, it was going to go back up to full.
Okay, then for me, it's going to be. You mentioned you played Mafia 2 Definitive Edition. Mine will be Mafia 1 Definitive Edition.
Hey.
Because I bought both Mafias with the trilogy
I
pack.
should have, and I missed out on the first one when it was on sale. But when it comes back, I'm definitely getting that one. So you'll have to tell me how that was and how it goes. Yeah.
Then there it goes. We have homework for next week. Yours is going to be Resident Evil 3, and mine's going to be Mafia 1. So, Paul, this was fun. Being able to be back at this,
fun coming back,
and very different seeing your face. Like it works differently. Like having a beta, who would have thought, right?
Makes it a lot easier, that's for sure. Being able to interrupt you and look at your face now.
Yeah, and I'm glad that this comes also at a time where you finally listen to some other gaming podcasts. So
also true.
I just have to give shout out to the two I listen, the Kind of Funny Games Daily and PS I Love You XOXO. a lot of the format of how I pursue this news comes from them. I'm not exactly copying it, but I kind of get the vibe of how they would discuss it. So just want to give them a shout out to this podcast, to where I got my inspiration from.
And for
So
mine being the Play Watch Listen podcast.
yeah, which is an
Thank you, a lot of things.
amazingly eclectic, deep thought podcast.
Crazy group of people, that's for sure. All of which I would love to meet and sit down with
Yeah,
a coffee one day because my goodness, the
and
stuff they can
and we'll
tell.
see. Obviously, because we're recording right now, so everyone that knows, we're recording this through Zencaster. We'll see how that goes going forward. I know our friend PG mentioned that there's a way to do it through Discord, through another program. I would want him, yeah, I would want him to teach me so we can figure that out, because a fun thing that would happen if we do it through Discord is we can have more than just the two of us.
That's true.
Yeah, we could have like a guest, like bring in our friend Zach, which you mentioned in our show, who is incredibly savage in his savagery and with his wit. He always knows how to like throw a joke, right?
Very. I have not met better observational comedic people.
Yeah. And then maybe
Exactly
we
what
can
you're
bring it.
talking about.
Then maybe we can bring in PJ. Who knows? So he
Maybe
can just
if he
so
can
he,
take time from being a rock star, right?
yeah. And if he can, yeah, if he can talk to, and if he can talk about anything that's not Mother 3, Smash, or Minecraft. So,
The
all
second he
right, Paul.
says one curse thing, I'm blocking him now.
Yeah, yeah, because at least want to try to be monetized.
Oh, yeah, right.
So, all right, Paul. So, this was fun. So, where can people find you?
They can find me at Dork of Art now on Twitter. I post all of my art there, memes, silly things. Um, you can also find me on YouTube at Dork of Art. It's mostly small gaming clips. I'm working on figuring something out with that, but that's not as big of a priority of mine. And on Twitch at Angel Sword 21 right now.
Yeah.
How about you?
So, they can find me in Instagram as Alejandro Segovia 93. They can find me on Twitter as A_Drosegovia. They can also find me on Twitch as the Slayer Giant. And if you want to read some of my stuff, you can go to thecriticalcorner.com.
Which I will say, that's where you should start. Boy's got some good writing skills. Do it.
Thank you. All right, Paul, this was fun. We'll be back here next week.
Yes,
Hopefully, we
indeed.
can get into the discipline, and no calamity will disrupt us again. So this was great, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. To everyone that watched, listened to us, thank you. And until next time,
Yes.
press X.
To play.
Bye, guys.